Arcadian Vanguard presents The Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Friday, January 31st, 2025. Good morning, I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with ratings news. Wednesday's edition of AEW Dynamite drew a total audience of 604,000 to TBS according to WrestleNomics. That's down from last week's audience of 655,000. The rating in the 18 to 49-year-old demographic was a .17, also down from last week's demo rating of .19. TNA Wrestling presented Impact last night on Access TV and TNA Plus, featuring matches taped on January 23rd and 24th at the Boeing Center in San Antonio. In the main event, the Nemeth brothers defeated First Class when Nick Nemeth hit the danger zone on Casey Navarro, but Ryan Nemeth tagged himself in to make the pin. Wes Lee defeated Ace Austin after interference from Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Igwe. After the match, they beat down Austin until the Rascals made the save. NXT's Cora Jade made an appearance, defeating Hyen. Jade continued the assault after the match, but Zaya Brookside and Masha Slamovich came out for the save. The match between the Northern Armory and Eric Young and Josh Alexander ended in a no contest when Young turned on Alexander and joined the Armory, beating him down. In other results, Mance Warner beat Sami Callihan, Brian Myers defeated Leon Slater, and Mustafa Ali topped Laredo Kid. Ring of Honor was streamed last night on Honor Club, featuring matches taped January 15th and 16th at the Andrew J. Brady Music Center in Cincinnati. In the main event, ROH World TV Champion Commander and Lee Johnson went to a 10-minute time limit draw in a non-title proving ground match. ROH Women's World TV Champion Red Velvet was also in action, retaining against Layla Gray. In other results, Queen Aminata beat Allison Kay, Blake Christian went over Evil Uno, Sammy Guevara topped Aaron Solo, and Serpentico defeated Brandon Cutler. In news from outside the ring, the episode list for Season 6 of Dark Side of the Ring has been released. The new season, which premieres on Vice on March 25th, will include episodes on Mick Foley's Hell in a Cell match, Vader, Tony Atlas, Ludwig Borga, Billy Jack Haynes, Eddie Gilbert, Daphne, the original Sheik Ed Farhat, and Muhammad Hassan. In the interest of transparency, we note that the Wrestling News' Brian R. Solomon served as an off-air consultant for the episode on the Sheik. And in independent wrestling news, Scott D'Amore's Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling has announced it will be running a show at the site of the old Maple Leaf Gardens, the arena that was the longtime home of the traditional Toronto wrestling territory run from the 1930s through the 1980s. MLP's Northern Uprising event is set to take place on May 11th and is planned to be held at the Toronto Metropolitan University's Matinee Athletic Center, which stands on part of the original location of the Maple Leaf Gardens. Said D'Amore, quote, 4 generations of wrestling fans, including myself and superstars like Adam Edge Copeland and Jay Christian Cage Riso, fell in love with this sport at the former Maple Leaf Gardens. One of the major ambitions of relaunching MLP was to reforge the legacy and bring wrestling back to sacred ground, end quote. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the Wrestling News 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.